Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to the first actual video on the channel. So this video, again, just like I talked about in the intro, is going to be about my consultation with Dr. Sanjay Gupta from York Cardiology. Now, for those of you who don't know, please check out his YouTube channel under Dr. Sanjay Gupta. He is phenomenal. So if you have any questions about your heart, if you have cardiophobia, if you have PVCs, if you have flutters, if you have anything like that, please go check out his page. He has a whole series basically dedicated to this topic, so he can give you a lot of information. The guy is a phenomenal human being in general. So to get into my story, I had cardiophobia and health anxiety, which developed after COVID, and I'll get into more of that in a later video. Okay, so I went to my first cardiologist, but like most people in here, when you get your first issue of reassurance, you still have a lot of doubt because you're still feeling a lot of symptoms. You still don't know what's going on. You start to question the doctors and think that they must have missed something. And I know this is the case probably in 80 to 90% of people that suffer from health anxiety and cardiophobia. So I took my test results, I took my echocardiogram, I took my Holter monitor results, I took my blood work, and I sent them to Dr. Sanjay Gupta. And then Dr. Gupta had set up a consultation with me where he called me from England. We went over the results together, and I'm going to get into the conversation and the really bullet points and important points of how the meeting went. Okay, so first of all, what we went over was really issues that the cardiologists look for when they see your results. Okay, when you come in complaining of, the irregularities and whatever that may be of what you're feeling. Okay, so the first thing that he looks for is obviously is what's called cardiomyopathy. He said, so this is what happens when you see somebody just, an athlete, anybody who's just running, fully healthy, and the next thing you know, these people just drop. He said that's because these people were born with a weak heart. They have a weak heart, it wasn't diagnosed, it wasn't seen, they didn't do anything about it, and then at some point in time, the heart just kind of gives out. The other thing he said was that you look at the echocardiogram, he said you can also see that the heart is more muscular now for some reason. The heart is working harder than it had to before. And you could tell these through the echocardiogram. He said, with me and my results, said I could tell you that you don't have to worry about that. You don't have that. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so I'm not going to drop. Even though that's still a fear. That's still a fear that has to be handled in your mind, because for me it went from, oh, I'm going to have a heart attack 24/7 because of all the symptoms and sensations that I was feeling, and you will possibly feel that too. And then when that gets reassured a little bit, it tends to move to something else. So for me, just dropping, going into cardiac arrest, and all, even though it's totally irrational. So the other thing that he was talking about was electrical issues that can be going on with the heart. So when you feel PVCs and you feel all this kind of stuff, you don't know what's going on. So that's what the Holter is for. That's what the stress test is for. So if you had both of these things done, and you may have had a few isolated PVCs, but there's no actual rhythm disturbances, anything like that, then you don't have to worry about any electrical problems, which is the same thing that was told to me during this call. Now let's get into the PVC, PAC, flutter, palpitation part of the conversation. Now, I was deathly afraid of having PVCs and the feeling and the uncomfortability of that feeling because I didn't know what was going on or what it meant. Okay, he has a ton of great videos on this. If you want to check these out, before you go to a doctor, while you're going to the doctor, but please go to the doctor, get your own reassurances, get checked by the specialist, so you can have that as a inner response when you feel these symptoms, because they don't just go away. Okay, so with that being said, when we started talking about palpitations, and he was explaining to me, he's like, palpitations are different depending on the person. Some person can feel palpitation as a fast heart rate or a thumping heart rate, both combined. I've had that, but it wasn't my main symptom sensation. I mean, I've had everything, and I'll get into that again in a later symptom video. But for me, it was the PVCs because I was so afraid of them. And, from what he told me, and from what's actually in other videos that I saw of his also, is that if he took 100 people off the street who had no feelings of any disturbances in the heart, they were happy as Larry, as he puts it. If he took 100 of those people, strapped a Holter monitor on them for 24, 48 hours, he said he can pretty much promise you that about at least 70% of those people are going to have at least one PVC during that 24-hour period. They don't fear them, therefore they don't feel them, and they just keep going about their day. We are in a hypersensitive and nervously aroused state. We feel everything, we body scan, so everything is just that much worse to us. But he said that these PVCs are harmless. Okay, the PVCs in general, the palpitations in general, are harmless. So the only time that you have to really start to worry about them or get them further checked out is really if you have palpitations that last for at least 30 seconds in length, straight through. Like, I'm not talking about like a bi-Gemini thing where you have a regular heartbeat and then you have a PVC, and then you have a regular beat and then you have a PVC. I'm talking about 30 seconds straight through where something is just off. Something's irregular, your heart's not beating in its normal pattern. Then you look into getting it, they have to look into it further. But if you just have a PVC here and there, there are people with thousands, and I did research myself that even came up with over 50%, how common PVCs are, that over 50% of the population have at least one of these a day. Okay, so I'm sitting here, or we're sitting here, waiting with bated breath for one PVC to happen. Meanwhile, there's people that have thousands, and they don't even think that these are, something that's seriously considered unless you have thousands of these in a day. Then they go into other, issues like the ablations and other ways to remedy the situation. So with these PVCs and with the palpitations in general, the analogy that he uses is baby snakes. So these PVCs are baby snakes. The flutters, baby snakes, anything that's considered a palpitation, the flutters, the skips, the fast heart rates, things like that, are baby snakes, and the cardiologist's job is to look for the mother snake, which could be lurking around the corner and bite you. That's the goal, is to find an underlying issue, which is used by the analogy of the mother snake, to catch a problem before it comes around and bites you. So, with me, I had all these tests done. I had the echo, the Holter, the EKGs, the blood work. I had the stress test done at a little bit later of a date, a couple days after this consultation, calcium score. Everything came back fine. And from the test he was looking at, he said, in terms of the snake analogy, is like, these things are the baby snakes. I don't even see any adult snakes, so there's no mother snake. There's no anything to worry about in terms of that. So, the message I want to get out to you guys, really about the palpitations and the PVCs and what you're feeling in your heart, is that most of the time, these are harmless, not meant to harm you. You 100% should get things checked out. Once you start feeling things that are off for you, they're a little bit different, go get them checked, get your reassurances, and then work on whatever the underlying issue may be, which in our cases is the anxiety, is the health anxiety. It's keeping you in a hyper-aroused state. You're super sensitive to everything that's going on in your body. You feel it more than the average person. So your heart is probably doing things that it has always done. And I can again bring this back to me. I would randomly feel palpitations at points in my life, and I wouldn't pay it any mind. I would just keep on going. Maybe I would feel something once in a week, maybe something once in a month. But I was always an anxious person going back, probably decades now. I was a caffeine drinker, a lot of soda, a lot of iced teas, so that was always in your body. Did later research, caffeine stays in your body for up to 10 hours. It's really not a good thing. If you're anxious, I would probably advise you to stay away from it. But again, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not trying to diagnose anybody. I'm just telling you my story, my consultation. Please go get your own reassurance. Go see your doctor. Get that peace of mind. Mostly all, virtually always, these are harmless, and you just feel them more than other people. So get them checked out, guys. So after you guys have gotten your reassurance from the doctors, what's left to do is to overcome the fear. I straight up asked my cardiologist, do I have a heart problem or do I have a fear problem? And said, you have a fear problem. And he was laughing with me in the doctor's office. So in order to overcome your fear, you have to change your perception on the way that you view these palpitations. So again, the way that Dr. Gupta refers to these things and tells his patients that you've had these things for years, and in some of these cases you felt these things for years. There has not been any problems, there has not been any heart issues. Basically, if you viewed these things as a friend, they would have been gone by, or not necessarily gone, but you wouldn't have paid them as much mind, which means you wouldn't have felt them. Your sensitivity has gone down. And he does go as far as to promise in some of these videos that if you can conquer this fear, if you can overcome this fear, and he uses the analogy of his son with the dogs. His son was very afraid of dogs. When they went to the beach one day, a dog started to chase him around, and the son became very afraid, and he started to associate the beach with the dog. So he didn't want to go to the beach, and he didn't want to do certain things. And this definitely transitions to people with cardiophobia or health anxiety. They associate so much fear and attach that emotional response to these feelings that they become so afraid that it leads to other things. Agoraphobia leads to, they just don't live their lives anymore. They kind of go into a shell waiting for the next incident to happen, waiting for the next run of PVCs to happen. So you have to rewire your brain essentially to see these PVCs in a different light. Now, if you tell yourself that 50 to 70% of the population is having at least one PVC a day, and they're just going about their day and not really paying it much mind, why can't you? Why can't I? Why can't we then feel a PVC, but say to ourselves, I know that this is harmless. I've been checked out by a cardiologist. I've gotten a second opinion by a different cardiologist. I've seen specialists in this area, and they have all told me that I have no underlying heart condition. It's anxiety driven, it's anxiety based. So when you feel these feelings, you now have a response and a defense for these. So over time, you can change your perception, you could go about your day, and you could go about your life. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please like the video, please subscribe. I'm gonna be dropping a lot of content for you guys. Turn on the notifications, and I will see you guys in the next video.